Mario Kart World is out, and slowly it is beginning to dawn on people what I've been saying for years. This modern Nintendo, this new guard, this new crop of employees, it's not the same Nintendo, it's not the same skill set, it's not the same people, it's not the same business incentives, it's not the same market. Everyone's playing the new Mario Kart and everyone is like, please, can someone convince me that this game is good? I'm scared that it might not be. And better to just let you guys know now, it's not the same people. It makes you wonder, are there still game designers at Nintendo? Right away when you look at the open world thing, you're like, that's weird. I feel like the fun is the courses or the content and not the space in between them. But I guess Nintendo's going to prove me wrong. But then they don't, because the idea was bad, and it's clear that it's just something they did because the technology now allows them to import a bunch of assets into one giant map, but clearly they're not like, oh, is this actually a fun idea? The game is boring, it feels empty, it feels hollow, and it feels soulless. This feeling is everywhere, from the hollow and sanitized theme park aesthetic, from the gameplay decisions made to supposedly further the series, but clearly serves to just water it down. Nintendo now is not the Nintendo of the past. The current employees there do not have the skill sets that the older crowd did. Years are not being spent comprehensively playtesting painstakingly handcrafted level designs. They're not making sure these levels feel good to the players. No, what we have now is the approach of tech first, ask questions later. Nintendo used to not even allow game development to proceed on a title unless they had a new and novel, fun mechanic that justified the game's creation in the first place. Now that the tech is there, but the ideas are not, it's really easy to just pull a bunch of maps into a giant empty open world. There's no handcrafted level design, there's no playtesting, just the assurance that you'll find your own fun. These giant open world games are not meant to be memorable experiences. They're trying to remove as much content, as much story, as much flavor, and as much vibes as they can from the game, and see how much of a hollowed out product they ultimately can produce that people will still buy. These giant open world games are meant for you to engage with them slack-jawed and half asleep, the same way you half watch Netflix, not as moments you're meant to remember, but as a dissociative time sink. It's slop. I'm sorry, Nintendo is making slop. That's what Tears of the Kingdom's game design decisions are. That's what you see in Pokemon open worlds. That's what you see in the new Animal Crossing. That's what you saw in Mario Odyssey's open world, which was a little bit more justified and had more going on, but was clearly headed in this direction. This game is so empty and devoid of inspiration that everyone's instinct is to go into the comments and just wishcast for ways they could have finished the game. It's telling to me that people's instinct with the boring, empty open world is, beyond just cutting it entirely, is to add some sort of RPG mechanics and collectibles. Same as the giant open world in the new Zelda, just generating a giant open world, scattering it with sort of half-considered tasks and busy work, and just hoping that the mechanics and the inherent appeal of the property are just so fun that people will be happy to spend hours just wandering around rather than having any specifically designed activities. No cool story beats, dialogue, music, art, environments, just sort of digital space, negative space between content. It was also really interesting to watch the Digital Foundry analysis of the graphics that so many people couldn't quite figure out why Mario Kart World is supposed to look better than 8. It's so clear that the art direction is so much worse. Even though the game now has more pixels and better, brighter lighting, and all the numbers are indeed higher, there's a certain flatness to the levels necessitated both by the open world, but just the way that they're handling distance and also having so many players on the track. Everything is just sort of flat and foggy, washed out, bland. The game looks nice, but there's a huge hit to the specificity and dynamism of the world design in general. Nobody really seems to talk about how much game design has to shift to accommodate an open world. People think open world automatically bigger, better expression of any game, but think of the new Zelda games. Look at what open world did to the music. The absolutely catchy and iconic melodies and tracks of older Zelda that you could like hum in the shower couldn't be created for the new style of Zelda. Not because they don't have the talent, which, maybe they don't. Koji Kondo is, doing less and less these days. But they couldn't do these old, catchy, and iconic melodies because they would drive the player mad having to wander around an open world for 150 hours listening to them. So, because of the open world, tons of the specificity and the memorability of all the artistic and gameplay elements of the game have to be reduced. Sure, we now have enough console power to import a million maps inside of a bigger map and have players just wander around in between all of the little things, but we don't have the pure art ability as humans in our artists and level designers to go into an absolutely giant map and fill it with meaningful handcrafted content. We see this again and again. There's beginning to be a realization, thank God, especially amongst open-minded younger gamers who spend the time to go back to older games, that even though older games were more technologically limited, they actually feel larger and more epic. Why is that? It's because every element of those games had been handcrafted and touched by a human. There's not these giant, open, empty, computerized expanses that our brains are so able to quickly categorize as meaningless negative space. Every area in older games was fussed over and maximized, every secret was placed just so, and everything had to be considered. A lot of this is a result of one team in one place focusing specifically on one map together, versus new game design trends which involve outsourcing a million elements of the games to a million different teams and then just sort of jamming them all in together in the final game, giving you a bunch of difficulty sliders and hoping people just sort of take care of it themselves. So like in Zelda, you'll have one totally siloed team taking care of the shrines, with the shrines having their own little asset pack, and they work totally separate of the other team that's creating other parts of the open world, who are like scattering the map-making busy work. Look at the difference between how much visually specific art direction, how handcrafted literally every pixel you see on the screen is in something like more low-tech, like Beautiful Joe, versus how generic even the newest Grasshopper game looks running on a super quote-unquote realistic engine. The engines and the technologies that game developers are working with at this moment have far eclipsed the ability for artists to really craft with intention and create specific looks and styles. Sure, you can add some geometry, change the lighting, add some post filters, but the result in so many of these games is pretty much identical. Metal Gear looks like Silent Hill, looks like Alan Wake, looks like Grand Theft Auto, looks like Final Fantasy, but that's a different story. Thanks so much for listening to Video Game Take's opinion on Mario Kart and Switch 2, and let me know what topics you'd like Video Game Takes to cover in the future. A lot of YouTubers have no background in art and animation and development, and I think it's really nice for me to add my voice to the mix and hopefully help people understand why these games are being made the way they are, and hear opinions and thoughts contrary to what they might be most commonly hearing from other Nintendo-y YouTubers. Thanks so much, and definitely subscribe if you want me to keep making these videos. Feel free to leave hate in the comments. Love you guys!